Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera passions. I am your regular host, LeTara. And today, I know it's been 2 weeks and I've been by myself and I've been solo dolo, but finally, we got ourselves a brand new co-host. Karen is with us today. Hi,
Hi.
Karen. Hey girl, thank you so much. Karen is a patron on the Patreon. She's been to the watch parties. So I know we're gonna have a lot of fun today talking about the show. Before we get started, I'm gonna say a quick shout out to all the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Marcus, Breland, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Justin, Paige, and Casey. Thank you all so much for being patrons of the show. And remember, if anybody out there who is not a patron yet, go on over to patreon.com/passions podcast and sign up for whatever tier you find most agreeable. And with that, we're gonna go on with the show. But before we get too far in the show, Karen, I think, would like to tell us about her origin story, her passions origin story, and I'm dying to hear it myself. So, Karen, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on. LaTara, it sounds like my story is kind of similar to yours. I grew up watching Days of Our Lives because my mom watched it. And I remember getting really hooked on that. I was probably too young to really being into soaps like that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
My mom was making the right decision there. But anyway, started watching Days. I started watching Passions when it aired in 1999. I watched through probably 2005 or 6. I don't remember exactly when I stopped watching. And I initially got into it because I saw the trailers for the Sheridan Princess Diana kind of storyline. And I was fascinated by Princess Diana when I was a kid. So I thought, oh, let me watch this show. Maybe it'll be cool. And once I started watching, I did not like that storyline.
Yeah, it's one of the worst.
Yeah. And I am a big Ivy fan. She's my ride or die, kind of like Theresa is your ride or die.
Okay.
And I kept watching because of her and because I wanted Ivy and Sam to be together.
You know what? That's a I love your story. It is very much like mine, where I was just like, I was watching soaps with my mom when I shouldn't have been, and especially, oh my God, Days of Our Lives. The first storyline I remember is Sammy tricking Austin. At least she thought she was tricking Austin, but getting pregnant by Lucas. Like that's the first storyline I remember
Oh yeah,
from Days
I
of Our
remember that.
Lives. And so yeah, we had no business watching Days at those young ages. But you know what? I feel like I learned a lot about the way, maybe not the way the world really works, but I don't know. Scamming. I learned a lot about scamming. So
Learned a lot about people getting possessed and then
hmm
I coming back to life.
yeah. But yeah, like Ivy's a good character to love, to ride or die with because honey, you're gonna ride. Ain't no dying. Ain't no dying. You're gonna ride. And to Ivy, honestly, Ivy wasn't in that much of these episodes this week, but when she was on, she sparkled.
Yeah,
Like
it always does.
I was like, I hate that she's about to destroy my girl Theresa and trying to destroy my girl, but damn, does she look good doing it?
Yeah.
She looks fabulous. And she looked fabulous last week. I talked about that in the last week's episode where she looked like $1,000,000. And I said she looked like she was going to bury Theresa. She's in her funeral clothes.
Yeah, she's ready.
So we're gonna jump right in. We watched episodes 626 through 630 this week. Yes?
Hmm.
Yes. I don't know why I keep wanting to say 326, but we are 300 episodes past that. Thank
Thank
the Lord.
God.
That's what I said, thank the Lord. So we're actually gonna start with magic because honestly, for me right now, the magic storyline has the most interesting things going on. And I also want to reiterate, last week I said this, and I want to make sure I say this again this week, and I'll say it again later in the show. But we are delving into some, still continuing with the Theresa abortion storyline, everybody. And like I said last week, if it is too hard for you to listen to, if it does not serve you in any way, turn it off. I'm not offended. Turn it. You do not need to listen to the show all the way through. You can turn it off, you can fast forward, you can do whatever you need to do. But don't feel like you have to listen to us talk about abortion if it's too hard for you to listen to. Okay? So just keep that in mind. When we get there, I'll remind you again, because I don't want anybody, getting hurt by what we say on the show. So with that, we're moving into magic because there's actually something interesting happening in magic. Charity, she's a zombie. I love this. I love this. So the kids have found zombie Charity and Kay after they've been ice skating and everything, right? And Charity assures everyone, because they were looking for her because they found a puddle of blood in the snow. They were looking for her, and Kay thinking that something was wrong, but she assures everyone, "Oh no, I'm fine. You guys, I'm fine, and there's nothing wrong here." They're like, "Well, I don't know what that blood was in the snow," and she's like, "It was probably some poor creature." Yeah, well,
Mhm.
some demonic creature. It was a lot of blood. And Kay thinks to herself, she's like, my plan is working perfectly. Like, they don't suspect a thing. This evil Charity is like perfect. And she says, "Sorry, cousin," because she thinks about Charity on ice in the cave, icicle Charity. And she's like, "Sorry, cousin Ice Cube. Miguel is gonna be mine soon." I just love cousin Ice Cube.
I don't think I caught that, but that is good.
It's so funny. "Sorry, cousin Ice Cube, but Miguel is gonna be mine soon." Oh, Kay's getting nastier and nastier, but I kind of like it. So then Miguel tells Charity how much he missed her and how glad he is that she's safe. He was so worried. And then Charity pushes Miguel. Well, of course, obviously, zombie Charity pushes Miguel to like tell Kay how much he was worried about her. She's like, "You need to go hug Kay now. Make sure she knows how much you missed her." Okay. And Miguel's like, "I already told her how much I missed her." She's like, "No, you need to hug her." So he goes and gives Kay a hug. Kay's loving it. Ba da ba ba ba. Kay's
I'm
loving it.
loving it.
Yeah, she's loving it. So like I said, Miguel is resistant, but he does eventually give Kay a hug. Meanwhile, Jessica and Reese are actually still separated from the group and don't know that Kay and Charity have like reunited with the rest of the group and are fine. So they have stumbled upon the cave where Icicle Charity is being stored by Kay, right?
Mhm.
Um, Also, it's so interesting that out of absolutely nowhere, they've decided to show us that Jessica has a crush on Reese. I feel like this came out of the blue. Am I wrong about that?
No, I it did seem to come out of nowhere. I think in the back of my head, I always had the idea of, oh, they might be a good couple because they're kind of like the outcasts from the group. They don't have a lot going on with their storylines. But yeah, I don't think they've shown that on the show before that like
Yeah.
that she has that attraction to him.
I mean, she's always yelling at him. "Shut
Mhm.
up, Reese!" Like, she's always yelling at him. But now, maybe it's because she liked him. That's what they try to tell us, convince us that when people are mean to you, that means they like you. So,
Yeah.
um, but anyway, they're at the cave. They've stumbled upon the cave. Tabitha and Timmy, who are always just kind of lurking around, watching, spying, they see that the two of them are about to go into the cave, and so they alert Kay by like, well, Tabitha does. Tabitha howls like a wolf, and it forces Kay's attention to turn towards the cave, and she notices them, and so she like runs, pulls them away, and so they can't find Charity on ice. Charity on ice. They can't find her. So then somebody says like, "Let's celebrate. We should celebrate." I don't know what they're celebrating. That they played hide and seek.
Yeah.
That they
But they
found
found each other.
Charity and Kay. And it's funny because, oh no, I know what it is. Reese says it. Reese says, "Guys, we should celebrate finding the two of these people by going in this cave and exploring it. Have you learned nothing, Reese? Has he learned nothing from the mine shaft and the Warlock Island caves and the ruins? Like, have you learned nothing? He's like, we should go into this fucking cave in the middle of nowhere and search around, maybe get lost again. But I think it's because he thinks he can like maybe kiss Kay again, because that's a whole thing.
Mhm.
That's a whole thing in this. Um, Kay distracts him by like kissing him at this point. It was all very odd and weird because he wanted to go into the caves. Nobody else wanted to go into the caves. I don't know why she felt like she had to kiss him to keep him from going in the cave. Nobody else wanted to go. He was the only one, the only idiot that was like, yeah, let's go explore these random caves. Everybody else was like, no, let's go get hot chocolate, like normal children. But yeah, she plants one on him, and we get
And his
like
glasses fog up. It was cute.
it was his glasses fog up. We also get like uh a shot of Jessica like harumphing, right? Like like she's upset, jealous, I guess, of her sister, because now her sister's like making out with her crush. Even though
Mhm.
Jessica knows that Kay doesn't like Reese. Because let me remind everybody, at the very beginning of this show, do you remember this? At the very beginning of the show, Jessica pulled a prank on Kay by like sending Reese a message as if she liked him. So it was like a message as Kay. I think it was a two-way pager. She sent Reese a message as Kay, like, "Hey, I really like you," and that's how this whole thing started. So Jessica knows that Kay doesn't like Reese, but she doesn't ever say anything, and I don't know why. Jessica never speaks up unless she's yelling at Reese. You know, have you noticed that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's true.
yeah,
She likes to yell at Reese.
yeah. But anyway, um, they all decide to go away from the caves, go get hot chocolate. Kay sends them and says, "Actually, I had left my bag over here. You all go get hot chocolate. I'll get my bag." And she goes and finds her bag, and she wonders what will happen if people find Charity. Like, how will she keep people from finding Charity? And also, what will happen once the ice melts? Because spring will come and eventually the ice encapsulating her will melt. But I would have assumed, I mean, it's demonic ice. Surely it has a permafrost. You know what I mean? Like, it's magic ice. Why would you think it would melt? I don't know. I don't know. But she says maybe it'll melt once spring comes, and so she worries that Charity will escape and tell everybody what happened. And it's at that point that the evil book appears in front of her again, and it gives her another spell to say. And the spell is stones and rocks, dirt and debris, close this cave for eternity. For eternity. Like, but to Kay's credit, because I don't know, y'all. I know it gets harder and harder to like defend Kay, because she is back to being sort of murderous. Like at this moment, I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna trap Charity in this cave for eternity. To Kay's credit, after the rocks appear in front of the entrance to the cave to like trap Charity inside, Kay says to herself, well, even if the ice melts, Charity won't be able to get out. She'll be trapped inside. And then she actually feels bad. She's like, but if she can't get out, she'll die in there. And she thinks, you know what? Once Miguel is safely mine, I'll come back and I'll let her out.
Mhm.
But hey, but if using your logic, if when spring comes, the ice melts, how long do you think Charity's going to survive in that cave after she's out of the ice? Actually, do you think she's alive in the ice? You know what I mean? Like, don't you think maybe that she might be? I would think that she might be dead in the ice. What I don't know. Wouldn't you?
I I guess in my head I thought of it as kind of like I forget the name of it, but where your body is preserved so then hopefully hundreds of years later you can be thawed out and brought back to life. I guess I pictured it as something like that.
Like Walt Disney's head cryogenically frozen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely what it's supposed to be. But I feel like if I cast a spell that was like, can you please get rid of my cousin? And then she was like encased in ice and moved into a cave, I would assume she was a goner. I would, but Kay, you know what? Kay's got a decent heart on her, y'all. I'm sorry. She said she would come back and let her out once Miguel is hers.
She's trying to justify it in her head.
This girl's getting worse and worse, and I love it. Okay, so meanwhile, Timmy's like getting upset. I Timmy, this was this week, and like I think the next few weeks are kind of Timmy's weeks to shine. He's finally gonna kind of come out of Tabitha's shadow, and I'm loving it. Because he's really coming into his goodness and using his own mind and his own powers of discernment. He is really upset. He says, "I Timmy can't stand seeing true love ripped apart," and he walks away from Tabitha to try and get some fresh air. There's some hijinks between him and Reese. It's not that important, but basically Reese sees him running around the forest and tries to chase him. Timmy goes up a tree and like dumps a bunch of snow on top of Reese, and it was funny.
And
It
then
was cute.
Timmy says, "Gotcha, geek boy." I loved that. I wrote that down.
Gotcha, geek boy. I love Timmy. I also I'm when I say I really like love what's going on with Timmy in these coming weeks. I Y'all will hear more. You Timmy and Tabitha fans will finally get to hear me talk a little bit more in depth about Timmy and Tabitha and their relationship. But the only reason I hadn't done it before is because there wasn't much to talk about. But now that Timmy's like gaining his own personality and more autonomy away from Tabitha, it's actually very interesting to me.
Mhm.
So anyway, he runs away. Just keep that in mind. Timmy's not happy. Timmy is very unhappy with how things are unfolding. So Kay catches up with the rest of the kids. They all get their hot chocolate, and then Miguel gives Charity her hot chocolate, which I might add, hot chocolate was Charity's idea. Kay gives zombie Charity the hot chocolate, and she says, I don't want it. And he says, and she has like a nasty attitude. And he's like, well, hot chocolate was your idea. What's wrong? Why don't you want it? And she says, um, what are you, my parole officer? I don't want it. And she pours it out. And Miguel like apologizes to her. But then Simone comes over and is like, Charity, I think you owe Miguel an apology. Yes. And Charity does like apologize. She says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just tired." She's using their line on them now. She's like, "Y'all always telling me I'm tired. Yeah, I am tired. That's why I'm acting like this." So she says, "I'm sorry, I'm just tired." So Miss Charity just needs a nap, I guess. Well, actually, she's evil. We know she's zombie Charity. She's following Kay's every directive.
And Miguel being the typical guy who's obsessed with charity, the like Miguel's standard operation. He doesn't care that Charity was rude to him. He's just concerned that she's okay.
Yeah. Which here's the thing for me, you only have one time to yell at me about some bullshit, like some nonsense. Like you and I aren't arguing. I can see if we're like in the middle of an argument, a heated argument, but I hand you a cup of hot chocolate that you fucking asked for and you yell at me, we're done.
Mm,
We're done because something's not right.
yeah.
Something's way off with you. But not with Miguel. He loves her way too much. So yeah, he's just concerned about her well-being. He's like, let's get you home for a nap. And so um Miguel offers to walk Charity home, but then Charity says, you know what? I'll walk home with Jessica. And since Kay is staying with you, you should just walk home with Kay. And Miguel's like, oh, okay. And so everybody goes their separate ways. The next day, everybody except for Kay and Charity are over at Pilar's home, which is crazy because Kay lives at Pilar's house right
Mhm.
now. So I guess she woke up early, went to Tabitha's house to hang out with, or to scheme, not hang out with, to scheme with her little minion. But all the other kids are at Pilar's house decorating for Christmas because y'all, it's Christmas time. Christmas time is here. It's Christmas time. I love Christmas time on soap operas. I love it. I don't know what it is about like the decorate. They do such a good job like decorating, making it look so warm and homey. I always loved it in Salem on Days of Our Lives when they would like decorate the square and like I don't know. I just love Christmas time on a soap opera. They really go all out.
And I
Um
guess because we were kids when we watched the soap operas, it brings back that nostalgia. Like these were the way the decorations were in 1999 or 2002 or whenever.
yeah, I agree. It is very like nostalgic, it's homey, it makes me feel like I don't know, especially the way Pilar's house is looking right now in these episodes with everybody in all the boxes and they're pulling everything out and the trees up and Pilar's coming in with all her groceries and she's making all the food. It just looks nice. It just looks lovely. So anyway, the kids are there. Simone, Jessica, Miguel, Reese, I think, are all at Pilar Miguel's house decorating for Christmas. Miguel says, "You know what? I'm gonna call Charity because they talk about yeah, Charity was acting really strange last night. Like I thought that was so weird, but then she said she was tired and maybe that's all it was. So Miguel calls her to invite her over to decorate. Over at Tabitha's house, though, the phone rings. Kay sees that it's Miguel. She tells Charity not to answer, like leave him twisting in the wind, basically. Um, and because Kay's new plan is exactly what I was hoping it would be. It is to make Charity treat Miguel badly so that he will then break up with Charity. And it's a great plan. It's a great plan. And that's what I thought she should do. It's even better now that she has this minion so she can be herself and be there for Miguel to like be a shoulder to cry on and a person to confide in, but also she has like this clone of Charity that will do her bidding. It's an excellent plan. Finally Kay's got a really good plan that I think can work. So she tells her not to answer the phone to keep Miguel kind of twisted in the wind. And the kids continue to decorate, but Miguel is worried about Charity, is worried that she's mad at him. He's like, I don't know what I did. Maybe she's mad at me. Simone starts to feel like a little bit suspicious. She's like, or maybe it's the person she's been hanging out with. Like maybe somebody is poisoning her mind against Miguel. Come on, Simone. Like again, Simone is right. Simone's not wrong. What a leap to make that Charity would change her personality that much just because of something that Kay said to her. You know, that's not, that's just not um par for the course of Charity. She just wouldn't do that. But anyway, um, Kay decides, you know what? Her original plan was to make Charity seemed super awful to Miguel and that he would break up with her, but she said it's moving too fast. Like it looks suspicious if you go from being lovey-dovey one day to being absolutely horrible the next day. Honestly, that's honestly grounds for like being um what's it when they take you to the hospital? Admitted. It's grounds for being admitted to like for psychiatric evaluation, right?
And
If you
Charity was already had that happen, right?
she already had it happen. And the thing is, she already had it happen, and Kay kind of did it to her. And Eve, too. It was more Eve than Kay. Kay is a child. Eve is a full grown adult who admitted this child to the hospital just so her secrets wouldn't be revealed. She locked her up. She locked her
Bad
up.
doctor.
Such a bad doctor. I'm honestly so glad Eve is not in these episodes. I almost expected when they went to the clinic, we're gonna get there. I almost expected when Theresa went to the clinic, I almost expected that Eve was gonna be the counselor. Did you feel that way?
I didn't think about that, but that would make sense.
When they were like, you have to see the counselor first, I was like, oh my God, I bet it's gonna be Eve. It was a black woman though. So anyway, we will get
Every
there.
doctor.
Eve's every doctor, so I thought she'll be the abortion clinic counselor as well.
Yeah.
It would be on brand for this show. It really would be. But anyway, Kay decides, you know what? Let's go over there And here's the new plan. You're going to be hot and cold with Miguel. It's going to be back and forth. You're not going to always be treating him poorly, but you're not going to always be like lovey dovey with him. You're going to keep him confused, basically. And then after some time, you'll break up with him and it'll make sense. Everybody will think this makes sense because they've all seen how rocky your relationship is. Again, good plan. Smart girl. Smart girl. So uh they go over to Miguel's house, and Charity seems to be back to herself as far as everybody can tell. She goes in, she tells Miguel how much she missed him last night and that she loves him, and he's just happy to see that she seems back to normal. So they continue to decorate. Simone comes over to Kay, who's is like writing on an envelope for her. It's her gift to Miguel. And Simone's like, "What is that? What are you up to now, Kay?" For Simone and Kay to be such best friends, it is unfortunate how suspicious Simone is of Kay at all times. I mean, it makes sense. It makes complete sense, but it's unfortunate. Like, girl, stop calling this girl your best friend. Y'all are not friends. I don't think you even like her. I don't. I don't think Simone even likes Kay. Do you?
Not really, not anymore after the stuff they've been through over the past few years. I think they're more frenemies now.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it. They still like Simone is my best friend. Kay's my best friend. Is she? Is she your best friend? Anyway, Simone is suspicious of Kay, asks her what she's up to. Kay says, "Oh, I'm gonna give Miguel his Christmas gift early, because it's tickets to the Nutcracker and the show is before Christmas. So I'm gonna give it to him early." And Simone's like, "Ha, I gotcha. I knew you were up to something." And she's like, she thinks that Kay is giving him 2 tickets to the Nutcracker so that he will take her to the Nutcracker, considering it's her favorite show. She loves the Nutcracker. We learn that Kay is just crazy about the Nutcracker apparently. So uh Simone is accusing her of trying to use this to spend time with Miguel. Then Kay shows her the envelope that says to Miguel and Charity, and she's like, "Nope, look, this is for both of them. There's nothing suspicious going on here. I'm telling you, I've given up. I really wish you would believe me." Again, Kay is playing the game. Finally, she's playing the game the right way. I guess that demon blood must have really done something to her. It really helped her out. She was just covered in that demon blood last week. So I
She's
think,
rising up after the plans she made before never worked out.
yeah, she's finally wising up. Because, yeah, I mean, her plans never worked out because they were always the same plan. She kept doing the same plan over and over again and thinking she was going to get a different result. And it's the same bad plan, girl. But I'm so glad she is getting it figured out. So, while all of this is happening in the house, Timmy and Tabitha are creeping outside. I just thought this was so funny. They spend weeks. They have spent years at this point, Timmy and Tabitha, just crouching in bushes, crouching under windows, hiding behind trees, hiding in trees. I just love all of their different like um hiding places. So anyway, they're spying from outside the house, crouched under the window. And Tabitha tells Timmy that the spell that Kay cast is a tantamount to selling her soul. So basically, the spell was so big, so powerful that she might as well have sold her soul to cast that spell, and that she absolutely is gonna owe the friends in the basement something. It's a debt she will have to pay. And I think I do remember what the debt is. When she said that, I was like, "Oh yeah, I think I know exactly how Kay pays for this," and it is kind of sad. So anyway, but actually I could be wrong about that. I might be wrong about that. But yeah, basically she's telling us Kay has done something big, and it's basically on the same level as selling her soul to Hecuba, except it's actually going to be worse. Her because Timmy's like, "Oh, does that mean that their house is going to be pulled to hell again?" And Tabitha's like, "It's probably going to be worse this time." Ugh, okay, let's see what that means in 200 more episodes, 300 more episodes. We'll know what the debt she is she in 300 more episodes, we'll know what the debt is that she has to pay, I'm sure. So, Meanwhile, the kids are inside. They start talking about Sheridan and Luis and how much they loved each other. And Reese talks about how there's no evil spell that could keep two people who truly love each other apart forever. They say that they're talking about this because Reese is like on his little soapbox about Tabitha being a witch and casting spells. And somehow they made the leap to. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how we got here. Somehow they made the leap to Tabitha. Reese made the leap to Tabitha. Probably cast a spell to keep Sheridan and Luis apart forever. But he doesn't believe that that will work, and he's right. Like he's not wrong about it. Actually, outside, Timmy says Reese doesn't know how close he is to the truth. Like, but the kids, of course, kind of let it roll off their. They of course they look at Reese like he's ridiculous all the time, and it is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to hear and for somebody to say, like, especially in this context where they're talking randomly start talking about Sheridan and Luis, and Sheridan to their mind is dead. and now Reese is talking about like, oh well, Tabitha cast a spell that caused this. I don't know. I would be like, come on, Reese. I'm with the rest of them. Shut up, geek boy. I'm with
Yeah.
them.
The funny thing is, Reese is supposed to be the one who's into science and facts and evidence, but he's believing in all this supernatural stuff that's accurate, but no one else knows that it's true. And everyone else is like, "Oh, that's so dumb, Reese. What are you doing?"
Yeah, he's the man of science, but he's the man of science fiction, I think, at this point for them, for the friend group. But he's right. He's not wrong. So the kids talk about that. Then Kay decides, or no, the kids are talking, and then Kay looks down in her glass. They all have like drinks or whatever. She looks down in her glass and she sees an ice cube with Charity's face in it. And so she screams and she drops her glass. And I'm gonna need her to if she's gonna be on the dark side and do all this dark side bullshit. This girl, you gotta have nerves of steel, honey. If you're gonna fight the powers of goodness, you're gonna have some better nerves than that. It's just a fucking ice cube. Go pour it out in the sink. Okay. But she screamed, she dropped it. I imagine it is startling, but nobody could see it. You saw it. Excuse me. Go to the kitchen, pour it out in the sink, pour some hot water over it. Problem solved. Like, but she drops her glass. The ice cubes go everywhere. She manages to grab the one that has Charity's face in it and throws it into the fire, while the other kids are like cleaning up the mess she made. So I don't know what that means. I guess she's gonna start having like seeing signs. I guess maybe that's Charity trying to get out of the ice using her powers. Like what was this? Do you know what the significance of that might have been? Because I don't know.
Not really. Maybe it's the angels or heaven trying to tell Kay you're being bad and remind her that she's hurting Charity.
Yeah, because to me it can be to me I feel like it could only be one of two things. But then once the way I saw how Kay reacted, I realized maybe it wasn't one of the things I thought it was. The first one was Kay's guilty conscience weighing on her, so she saw Charity in the ice, right? But it seemed like Tabitha could see that Charity was, for some reason, from where Tabitha's vantage point is, she could see that Charity was on that ice cube.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that means it wasn't like just a vision of Kay's. I think it means that it was real. So then I wonder, well, is Charity sending out messages from the ice as much as she can, but she can only communicate through ice?
Yeah, that makes sense too, because Charity does have supernatural powers, so maybe she's trying to
Yeah.
haunt Kay a bit
Yeah.
and say, what are you doing, cousin? Why are you so evil?
Yeah, she's sending messages through ice. I love. But why not send the message to Miguel? Why send it to Kay? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe to give Kay the chance to save herself. I don't know. Whatever, y'all. Charity was in the ice cube. Kay threw the ice cube in the fire. Nobody saw it. That's what you need to know. Anyway, moving on. At this point, Kay decides that she wants to speed up her plan a little bit. She's like, okay, she's the ice spooked her. She's like, I need to make Miguel mine a little bit faster. I wanted to kind of let this happen a little bit more organically, but I don't know if I have the time for that. So she pulls her charity zombie to the side and gives her the directive to push Miguel away. And how does Charity do that? Y'all, this made me sick. It made me sick. Um, Hank, aka Kay's uncle, Charity's step uncle, basically. Hank is hanging up mistletoe. And y'all, I said mistletoe, y'all already know where this is going. Hank is hanging up mistletoe in like the entryway. Charity walks up to him once it's hung up and he's looking at it to make sure it's like gonna stay. She walks up to him and says, you know what it means when two people are caught under the mistletoe. And then she lunges at him and kisses him open mouth. So gross. It was so gross. I was disgusted because let's be clear, Charity is still a child. She is a child. She even like just looking at her, she's a teenage girl. She's got a teenage girl body. She's just a teenage girl. And that is a very grown man. Very grown man. So the fact that the Passions writers wrote this way was so weird to me. Why not have it be Reese that she kisses? You know, why does it have to be Hank's grown ass? I didn't like that.
They thought it would be easier to brush it off, for everyone to brush it off if she kissed Hank and not someone like Reese.
Yeah, I guess. I guess, but I think it's just as odd of a choice because if she kisses anyone, it's odd and
Mhm.
crazy and hard to brush off because for the last 500, 600 episodes almost, these two people, Charity and Miguel, have been inseparable. And she's been so obsessed with Miguel.
Yeah.
So anybody she kisses other than Miguel and anybody she kisses in front of Miguel like that would cause the same amount of turmoil, I think. I think. But that's not what they did. They had her kiss Hank. And Hank kisses her back. I'm just saying. He kind of stands there and takes it instead of pushing her off of him. Miguel flies off the handle. Loved it. I loved it. Because honestly, Miguel, the actor who plays him, Jesse Metcalf, oftentimes to me, he plays everything with Miguel. Miguel is so flat. Like actually he and Charity are almost like perfect for each other because they're just so flat. Their affects are so kind of flat. But this, he really opened up. He really soared to new heights. He rushes across the lunges across the room, pulls Cherry off of Hank, punches Hank, tells him, "Get your hands off of my girlfriend. What are you doing to her?" Blaming Hank. And I guess he just didn't see that Charity kissed Hank. That's what I'm gonna assume. But it looked like everybody was looking in that direction when she started talking to him,
Mhm.
right?
It was really awkward, at least from my perspective, because you had everyone standing around in the living room and staring at them for what felt like 10 minutes before Miguel finally reacted and punched Hank.
Yeah. I agree. It seemed like they kissed for a long time and everybody's standing there like, oh, dun dun
Mhm.
dun, in a state of like suspension. Well, yeah, this one, Miguel punches Hank, is berating him. Uh, Luis, who is outside doing something, I don't exactly remember. It's in my other notes for Sheridan and Luis, but he's outside. He hears the commotion and he comes in and he breaks up the fight. And Hank tells his side of the story. He's like, "Hey man, I was just standing here putting up the mistletoe, and Charity came over and kissed me." Miguel's like, "Yeah, right. Everybody knows you're the biggest womanizer in town." Did we know that? Did everybody know that? Because I didn't.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that that was his reputation, especially considering, yes, we now have this new Hank. I guess he's not that new. He's been on for a while, but the new actor playing Hank, yes, he's hunky. I could see him being able to get a lot of women. The first one though, I don't think so. I don't see it for him. But I could be wrong. There are girls who are into it. But yeah, he says everybody knows you're the biggest womanizer in Harmony. How dare you take advantage of my girlfriend like that? And then Hank says she kissed me, and Louise says to him, it's bad enough you're kissing his girlfriend. Now you're gonna blame her. So everybody's like on Charity's side and doesn't believe Hank. Um, Luis sends the kids out so that Miguel can cool off. He's like, Miguel, go outside. You need to cool off. And so they go outside, and Hank tells Luis, yo, the way that girl kissed me, it wasn't her first rodeo. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
He was like, I've been around the block a few times, and I'm telling you, that girl isn't as innocent and pure as y'all think she is. Uh-oh. Uh uh-oh. So I mean, that's that. I do think maybe this is gonna start having what? Because why would anybody suspect Kay? There's no reason to suspect Kay in this. I was about to say I was like, this could be suspicious for Kay, but no. It's just Charity acting erratically, and she's known to do that. Now she's just acting erratically in a new way. Like
Yeah.
she used to be acting erratically by talking about doom and hell and evil, and now it's just, I guess she's slutty now. I don't know.
Charity 2.0.
She did the Christina Aguilera where she got when Christina went dirty. You remember that and turned into ex Tina. Now she's
Yeah.
ex Charity. But so anyway, Miguel goes outside. The kids go outside. Miguel's kicking, punching, screaming, hitting the air. He's out. He's so upset, and he's like, "Charity is my girlfriend. How dare he even touch her?" Chill out, bro. Like Charity's my girlfriend. And again, didn't you how we saw that they were kissing each other. Everybody saw it. So anyway, he's kicking, he's punching, he's throwing a fit. And Charity tells him, she like first of all, she shushes him, which I maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a crazy fucking lunatic. But nothing boils my blood faster than being shushed. Especially if I'm already upset. Do not, if you value your life, do not shush me. Like, but she shushes him, and she's like, shh. Oh my God, I can't believe you're acting this crazy. It was just a kiss. Oh my God. She says, I can't believe you're acting this crazy. And he says, well, I'm acting crazy because you were kissing Hank. And why were you kissing Hank like that? And he says, I thought you loved me. And she says, I didn't know that you would act this crazy. And I honestly, I kissed him because you're the only guy I've ever kissed before. And I just was curious about how it would feel. Not a good answer. Bad answer. If you're so curious, we need to break up. Right? If you're curious, we need to break up. But she says, I was curious about what it would be like to kiss somebody else because you're the only boy I've ever kissed. And then she goes, I cannot believe that you're making such a big deal out of this. It was just a kiss. I can't believe you're making such a big deal out of this. Gaslighting him. And then she asks everybody else to leave and leave them alone. And she says to him, you know, sorry. This is actually when she says to him, you know, I just wanted to know what it felt like. I was curious. And then she apologizes. She says, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I think you're making too big of a deal out of this. So actually she doesn't apologize. She gives him a very much a non-apology. I'm sorry, but I think you're making too big of a deal out of this. It was just a simple kiss. I never thought of you as the jealous type. I thought you were different from the other boys at school. And Miguel's like, yeah, I thought I was different from them too. And then he apologizes to her. He apologizes to her. And then she tells him how much she loves. She's like, you know, I love you. I love you so much. And so then they go back inside, and she says that he needs to apologize to Hank. So he goes in and apologizes to Hank and says, sorry, man, I just got a little over excited. Because another thing that Charity said about the kiss was like, it's just a tradition. Like everybody kisses under the mistletoe. Not like that, babe. Not
No,
like that.
not with a half of the town standing there watching you make out with him.
Open mouth, tonsils to tonsils. I just no, not that's not tradition. That's not my tradition anyway. I don't know where they do that. So anyway, okay. During all of this, Timmy is extremely uncomfortable with what's going on. He's a good guy. He's a good person. And he decides, you know what? Timmy needs to find a way to save Charity. So he sneaks away from Tabitha, who is having the time of her life watching all of this shit. She is thoroughly enjoying it. So she doesn't even really notice when Timmy sneaks away. So he goes off. The next time we see him, he's headed to the cave where Charity is on ice with a wagon full of extension cords and an electric blanket. He's so sweet. He's adorable. He's got his electric blanket and an extension cord stemming from God knows where. Like plug, I don't know where it's plugged in. It's long as hell. I mean, he has just so many ropes of extension cord. I wonder if he like plugged it in at Tabitha's house.
Maybe.
And then went about the walking through the town, dragging this giant long cord. But anyway, his plan.
I can see people walking down the street and tripping over the cord. Where did this come from? What's going on?
Why is this here?
Yeah.
Also, not to mention, it's snowy. There's water all over the ground, so it's just dangerous to have like these daisy chained um extension cords, these daisy chained extension cords, just like streaming through this wet marsh of a town that's full of snow and ice and water. Because people still get electrocuted from like power lines that dip into water and stuff. Like now, it happens not all the time, but it does happen. I was reading about it. Unfortunately, y'all, every day I read a new article and I'm like, okay, great. There's another thing for me to be afraid of. you know? Do you feel like that? Every day I'm just like, oh, great. Now I got to be afraid of stepping off the curb and getting electrocuted and dying. Because I read an article about about this woman. I read an article about this woman in New York City who like got electrocuted because she stepped in the wrong spot and it was like a live spot or something. I was like, oh, wonderful, great. Now I gotta watch where I step even more because I thought all I had to worry about was stepping in dog poo, but actually I have to worry about getting electrocuted like Ivy Crane. So anyway, Timmy, he's causing quite the hazard through Harmony with his extension cords. But his plan is to dig Charity out and warm her up with that electric blanket to melt the ice. It's a good enough plan for me. I'm like, yeah, try it, Timmy. I hope this works for you. I hope it worked out for him. But Tabitha catches up with him, before he can really get anything done. And then Tabitha's like, she's chastising him. She's like, what are you thinking? If Charity gets out of there, if she'll get married to Miguel, they'll make love, and then it's curtains for us. And Timmy says, well, maybe Charity will fall in love with Timmy, and then once she's in love with Timmy, I can convince her not to destroy you, princess. Yes, it's wishful thinking, but the way Tabitha went off on him made me very sad at this point. She says to him, let me see, Tabitha, she says, that's the dumbest thing you've said to date. Poor Timmy. She says, that's the dumbest thing you've said to date. Charity is never going to fall in love with you because where most people have a heart, you have a bunch of styrofoam peanuts. Charity wants a real life boy, not a doll. Be realistic. Now get over yourself. Tabitha, she didn't have to be that mean to him. That made me sad and it made me mad. I was like, he's always saving you. Mm-hmm. Sure, he cut off your head a couple of times, but that was a mistake. He's always saving you. How dare you tell Timmy to get over himself? You get over yourself, lady. And then
She's always beating up on him. Like, remember early in the show when she was putting him in the washing machine and the dryer and all that
and
stuff?
The blender? Yes. Yes, I was so glad that they stopped that. I think maybe people were like, this is excessive,
Mhm.
because I do remember in the early episodes, yes, she was always being extremely abusive to him, like punishing him for like little things. Um, but she has become more, it has become gentler with him over time. So I think that's maybe is why I was kind of shocked to hear her be so harsh with him, because she says some harsh words to him from time to time, but it's not usually this harsh. Get over yourself. I don't know. Charity's never gonna fall in love with you. You're just a doll. Well, I'm your only friend too, so maybe chill on that. Your only friend is a doll, and you love me, right? I'm a doll, but you love me. So why is it so crazy that Charity, who also is a witch, right? She might love me too. I'm
Yeah.
not. Well, then Timmy looks up into the night sky and he sees a bright star. And Tabitha tells him it's the Christmas star, and that little girls and boys all over the world wish on that star every year. And she mocks them, saying, don't they know nothing will ever come of it? Nobody's listening to you. Nobody's listening for your wishes. But when she walks away, Timmy makes a wish. He says, Timmy wishes to become a real boy with a real heart. Oh, you're a real boy. I want him to become a real boy too. And it's coming. I'm very excited for it. I already know that that's coming up, so I'm looking forward to Timmy getting his wish. So Tabitha comes back over to crush his dreams, saying there's no such thing as Christmas magic. It's all a lie. Let's go home. They go home, and Timmy's so aggravated and frustrated with Tabitha. He's just sick of it. He's sick of being treated poorly. His feelings are hurt. He's sad. He's hurt for Charity. And he says he's gonna open up the scroll, the magic scroll, to see what's going on, or to check in on Charity or something. I guess he wants to ask it a question about Charity. That's what it is. So he opens up like the trunk that the scroll is in, and immediately like this bright red light blasts forth, and then there's like a whirlwind inside the attic, just like blowing shit around. And the scroll, Tabitha says, the scroll only answers questions that it wants to answer. It'll only tell you what it wants to tell you. And then the scroll comes out and says basically the exact same thing in like the weirdest voice. It was like, let me see if I can do the voice. It was like, the scroll has a story. The scroll has a story to tell, but it will only tell the story it wants to tell. Like, it was the weirdest. I feel like that was pretty spot on, actually.
I think it was.
Like, I'm pretty bad at impressions, but I think that was pretty good. I think the reason I can do it well is because it was a bad voice. Like, it was a bad voiceover, so now I can do it. So then it starts to show them all the things that are happening in town. We're just sitting down. What we're doing, as always with Timmy and Tabitha, we're finding ways for them to not have to be crouched down under a window to know what's going on. Right? So now the scroll is just showing them pictures, moving pictures, not moving pictures, like a show, I guess, TV shows of what's going on around Harmony. And it shows them Pilar and Luis in the kitchen talking to Beth and all kinds of stuff. But as far as magic goes, that's basically it this week. You have anything to add?
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah. It was it to me it was pretty much the most fun storyline this week. I really enjoyed I enjoy seeing evil Charity, zombie Charity do her thing. Even though I did not love the kiss with Hank, it just made me cringe so bad. But everything else, the way she's acting, the way she talks to Kay, the way she's talking to Miguel, even though I don't agree with it and I don't necessarily like it, I like seeing this version of Charity. She's so much more interesting. And
Mhm.
I think Tabitha
Mhm.
says that in these episodes. She says something about, yes, I like this Charity so much better than the one in the ice because this one's a lot more interesting. And that's true. That's absolutely true. So with that, we're going to talk about Sam, Grace, David, what's going on with these people? Lord Jesus. There's not much to talk about here. It was very sparse this week for them, which I'm interested now that we know that David is working for Ivy. I do want to see more of what what does she have over him? Like, what's his secret? And two, just like more of Ivy being Ivy.
Yeah.
You know, I do want to see more of her kind of getting in there, scheming and doing her things and doing it looking fucking fabulous. She looks so good all the time. All the time. So, speaking of Ivy, she's at the wharf with David Hastings. They rendezvous to kind of honestly, nothing happened here. Well, that's not true. Something did happen here, didn't it? A little bit of something happened here. This
Mhm.
I will say this was extremely sloppy though. What am I talking about? Well, David and Ivy rendezvous at the wharf. He tells Ivy that he was late because Grace was kissing him, and she says, "Great, so that means that the plan is working." He's like, "No, she thought that I was Sam, and uh, I don't know. I'm doing everything I can to break up Sam and Grace, but she seems to want to stay with Sam." He's like, "So I don't know if there's much more I can do." Ivy tells him, "You'll keep doing whatever I tell you to do as long as I'm paying you." So I guess she's blackmailing him, but she also pays him a fair wage, I guess. Right? Like
Yeah.
she's not so bad. I'm going to blackmail you, but I'll pay you. I
Mhm.
will pay you cuz she says you'll do what I'm paying you to do, basically. So they talk about what he basically just brings her up to speed on like where he is with Sam and Grace. But he brings up that he wants to leave Harmony because too many strange things are happening in Harmony. And then he says that Charity was having premonitions and that she was seeing Sam and Ivy together, David and Grace together, and that she also saw a baby. Now, this is the part that I think is an absolute stretch and a leap and like just like the worst way for them to put Ivy onto Theresa might be pregnant. Like it was so too I don't know. To me it was lazy. It was lazy. But it's what they did. So David says, "Yeah, she had a premonition about a baby being born that was going to destroy lives." Ivy makes the leap to Teresa's pregnant and she's pregnant with Julian. Like that quickly. Like she she thinks about it for like 5 seconds. She's like, who could that premonition have been about? Who is pregnant? I bet it's
Who is
Theresa.
chock full of secrets.
Yeah, and who's chock full of secrets? Ah, Theresa, that slut. I bet it's that slut, and she actually slept with Julian in Bermuda, and she's pregnant with Julian's baby. And now Ivy knows that fast, that quick. I didn't love it. I'm gonna be honest. I was hoping that Ivy would come to that understanding much later, and in a different way, a better way, by like stalking Teresa like she's been. I think
Mhm.
she would have gotten there eventually. She would have figured it out. If she had just followed Teresa like this particular day, she would have seen Teresa going into the women's clinic. And I think that would have made more sense for me that she would make that connection. Other than because Ivy doesn't even believe in Charity's premonitions that much. She doesn't. Like, she believed when Charity was having the premonitions about Julian and Eve. She's like, I think there's something there. But then she also is like saying to David, surely you don't believe this young girl's like the rantings of this lunatic young girl, right? It's like, which one is it, Ivy? What do you believe it or not?
This is what I found amusing because David and Ivy are going back and forth. He's saying he wants to leave. Too many strange things were happening in the town. And Ivy tries to play it off. David brings up the fact that, well, remember how Grace cursed you? And Ivy is all like, oh, well, obviously that didn't work. I'm perfectly fine. Nothing bad has happened to me. And then, and I start thinking right then, excuse me, you were struck by lightning and fell off a ladder and hurt your spine. Now you're in a wheelchair. And David jumps right in and points that out to her. But I love the way Kim's face slowly falls as he's reminding her of that. Like, oh shit, maybe he has a point here.
Yeah, he says the exact same thing. He's like, you're perfectly fine. You were struck by lightning, fell 50 feet, broke your spine, and are in a wheelchair. What do you mean you're fine? Not to mention you're like going through all this shit. You got divorced against your will. You've been put out of your house. I think Grace's curse is working. Babe, I think it's really working. I'm so glad you brought that up because I had like skipped over it. Yes, that was hilarious. Hilarious. It was a great moment. So, that's basically all that happens on the wharf between David and Ivy. Meanwhile, Sam and Grace are like in their new home, their new old home, because it looks almost exactly the same. They haven't unpacked or did the furniture or anything yet, but the layout's the same. They're in their home having a little bottle of wine in front of the fireplace, talking about how, now that we have this new house and it's been blessed by Father Lonigan, nothing bad can go wrong now. Nothing can split us up now. Ain't no stopping us now. They really think they got the groove. They're in it. There's nothing's gonna stop them now. I don't know what possesses people in this show particularly to continue saying that.
They say it a lot.
They say it so much. And so they're like, yeah, nothing can stop us now. Meanwhile, Grace is like has a guilty conscience about the fact that she kissed David, even though she thought that he was Sam because of Kay's misplaced spell. So she has like a guilty conscience, and she starts to kind of come clean about their because they're talking about having a fresh start. And she says something about, yeah, sometimes we can't expect all of our problems to go away because sometimes things happen that you can't explain. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she says, well, sometimes things happen that you think you don't want to happen, but then they do happen, and you wonder maybe you did want them to happen. He's like, what are you talking about? Even I was like, what is this lady saying? Like she's just
I
like
think
word salad.
I think that's showing maybe subconsciously she liked the kiss with David a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And Sam doesn't know about the kiss, so he thinks that she's talking about him kissing Ivy.
Mhm.
Pick a time; it doesn't matter. Pick any time. He thinks she's talking about that. A time that he kissed Ivy, and he says, I never wanted Ivy to kiss me. Like I didn't want any of that to happen. And so she's like, oh yeah, no, Ivy, of course, no, sure, right. That's exactly what I was talking about. Because again, she was saying those things kind of in the lead up to trying to tell him the truth about having kissed David.
Mhm.
And he tells her, Ivy means as little to me as David means to you. I don't know. I know I kind of know where we're headed. As I've said multiple times, I remember the larger plot points. The getting there, I don't fully completely remember. So, do you have a black cat?
Oh, is she? Oh, here she
No,
comes. Yeah,
no,
my
she's
cat.
so cute. I saw her in the background and I was like, because I kind of like cats. She's
I
so
I
cute.
was afraid she'd interrupt this.
No, it's okay. A cat, like a black cat, is perfect for our Passions podcast.
She's a black and white cat.
A
I
black and
say
white
her
cat.
name is Fluffy, but her name is not Fluffy. It's
What's her name? What is it?
Mouse.
Mouse? You have a cat named Mouse? I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. A cat named Mouse. Oh, that would be such a cute children's story. A cat named Mouse.
Hey, Passions people.
Hi, Mouse. How cute is she? A cat. I'm writing that down. Named Mouse. I love that. Your cat's named Mouse. All right. So Mouse has joined the chat. So Mouse, girl, let's tell. Oh, wait, she's a girl, right?
Mhm.
Okay, girl. We're gonna bring you up to speed on what's going on here in Passions. So, anyway, Grace thinks that Grace is kind of like off the hook now because she was gonna tell him that she kissed David, but then she changed her mind again. Um, Sam apologizes to Grace again about not telling her about Ivy, and tells her, rest assured that I only love you, Grace. Even when I was in the hospital telling Ivy that I had never stopped loving her, that was the only reason I said that was to save her life. Sure, Sam, I don't believe it.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels that way. I know I'm biased, but I was not buying that for a second.
No, Sam thinks of himself as a noble stand-up guy who believes in marriage and would never like break up his marriage, break up his family for someone else, right? Um and he thinks that that means that he can't love anyone else, another woman. But the reality is that you can be in love with more than one person at a time, but you choose one person, right? And you know what I said in the on the podcast? I said when he said that to her, it was different from the things he was saying before. When he was telling her all those lies, he was lying about we have this life, me and Ethan and you as a family. Yes, those are lies. But the minute he got to I love you, Ivy, I never stopped loving you, not even for a minute. It was like there was a shift in his demeanor. There was a shift in the way he was saying things. There's a shift in his voice. He loves Ivy. He always has. He never, and like he said, he never stopped loving her. But he needs to reassure Grace because he wants to make his marriage work, which is fair enough. It's fair enough. I don't think I would love hearing my husband tell me, you know, I love you, but I also what didn't ever stop loving Ivy, but I don't want to be with her. I still wouldn't like that. So
Yeah.
actually, maybe lie to me about that. Don't yeah, tell me I'm the only woman you love for sure.
And
Uh,
he says he never wanted to kiss Ivy, not once. He says, I should have told you about Ivy a long time ago. I'm not even sure I buy the stuff about him never wanting to kiss Ivy, not once. Grace walked in on them kissing quite a few times, and Sam wasn't doing anything to stop Ivy from kissing him. He was kissing her back sometimes.
he was fully kissing her back pretty much every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there would be times where she would kiss him, he would kiss her back, and then he would push her off of him.
Hmm.
But he always kissed her back for at least a little bit.
Right.
That's what I noticed. That's how
Hmm.
you know he love. I mean, he loves her. He loves her. There's no getting around it. I think he also loves Grace. I do. I think he also loves Grace, and he's choosing. He's decided to choose Grace, and Grace is the easier choice, right? You
Yeah.
already have a marriage with her. You already have the kids. Like y'all have a home together. You have a life together. Grace is the easier choice, and some might say Grace is the correct choice. Because Ivy's plotting and scheming. I know how you love Sam and Ivy, and I do too. I love them together. But if we're talking to practically who he should choose, it should in this moment it's definitely Grace because they have this life together. She's his wife, and even if you do love Ivy, her life is extremely complicated, and she kept your son from you for 25 years.
Hmm.
It would be tough for me to get over. That's all I'm saying. See, he seems to have already gotten over it though, so good for him. He's a good guy. Better than me. Better than me. All right. Do you have anything else you want to add to them before we move on?
Uh, I'm just looking at my notes real quick. No, I think that's about it. I have a few things about Sam gets coffee for them and Grace decorates the house. And she's standing there by herself, reassuring herself that the kiss with David didn't mean anything. And then Sam comes back in with the coffee, and they're like, "Oh, nothing is going to spoil our happiness now."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, though I did skip over that. They are decorating for Christmas. And yeah, Grace like does it in like warp speed. He goes to go make coffee, he comes back and she's like decorated the whole house. He's like,
Yeah,
"How'd you do this?" She's like, "Oh, it's just a few things."
maybe
But
she used her powers and she didn't know.
maybe. I wish these women could come into their powers a little bit better and like actually use them a little bit better. I mean, Kay is the only one who's actually really using her powers sort of kind of on purpose. I don't think she even knows that she has power within her,
Mhm.
but she is, leaning into doing the magic stuff. I wish the rest of them would. But all right, let's move on. Okay, I'm going to say this, y'all. We're about to move into the Theresa storyline. Just so you know, if you're ready to tap out now. It this week wasn't as bad as last week as far as like how heavy-handed so much of the abortion talk is, but there are some things that were said that were worse to me, in my opinion, than the things that were said last week. So it definitely has moved like very, very far pro life, like very far, like pro life talking points. And I'm not crazy about it. So if this is a triggering subject for you, turn it off. No harm, no foul. Catch you next week. If you feel like I don't agree, turn it off. I'll catch you next time. It is what it is. So we're gonna move into this. First, we're picking up at the book cafe where this girl Lynn, my God, misery just loves company. This girl Lynn, who is pregnant and miserable, has looked at Theresa in a public place and told her, Theresa, I can tell that you're pregnant. Why are you lying to Ethan about it? Tell him the truth. Like in front of Ethan and Whitney and Chad.
She's calling her out.
Yeah. And I was like I said, misery loves company. Like this girl's miserable because she's made some poor choices and she chose, and by poor choices, I mean the man that she was with. I do not mean necessarily that she has decided not to go through with terminating her pregnancy. I mean that she chose that man and then is upset because he doesn't want to be with her. He's abandoned her because he found out she was pregnant, but she still wants to be with him and is actually now considering the abortion because she's like, well, if I had chosen the abortion, then he would still be with me. But do you want to be with him after learning who he really is and what he's really like?
Mhm.
And again, I'm going to say this now. As these episodes progressed, I got more and more angry with the narrative that Passions was spinning for me, especially about this jackass Gavin. So let's talk about it. Lynn insists in front of everybody that Theresa is pregnant, right? And Theresa is just like, ha ha ha, what? She's kind of speechless. Ethan speaks for her, as he often does. He says to Lynn, don't be ridiculous. She's just tired from having a stressful day. And then Lynn's like, what do you mean stressful day? And Ethan explains the whole annulment debacle and all of that and how she got married to Julian by accident and all, not by accident, she was coerced and taken advantage of and got married to Julian Crane. And then Ethan and Chad and Whitney all leave the table and it's just Theresa and Lynn together. It should be noted that Ethan and Chad like leave the book cafe entirely, I think.
Mhm.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. We're not there yet. I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Okay.
You're almost
So
there.
so he says, she's just tired from a stressful day. Then he explains the whole annulment situation. And then Lynn says, well, if she was married to Julian Crane, maybe she's pregnant with Julian Crane's baby. Why the fuck would you say that? Who is this girl? Who raised her? Who raised you? Oh my God. Imagine being at a table of people, two guys you don't know, two girls you do know. You're pregnant, and then you look across the table, you think the girl across from you is pregnant, but she seems to be hiding it for some reason. So you blurt it out? Like she said, she knew. She was like, you're hiding it. Why are you hiding it? Maybe I have my reasons, bitch. Why are you putting me on blast? But then Ethan says Theresa isn't pregnant, and she's certainly not pregnant with Julian's baby. They never even slept together, right, Theresa? It was all just one big mistake. I know you're upset about your situation, Lynn, but don't project your troubles onto Theresa. She's just trying to help you. Okay, I mean, listen. From actually the way, because I didn't love the way Lynn went about this, so I kind of appreciated the way that Ethan was standing up for Theresa in the moment. I really did. But again, the writing is so heavy-handed. She never even slept with Julian, right, Theresa? Gives Theresa no chance to answer. And then we come right back, and she's never been with any other man. Okay. So that's when everybody leaves the table. Chad and Ethan leave the restaurant altogether. Did I say Chad and Whitney? I mean Chad and Ethan. Chad and Ethan leave the book cafe altogether. Whitney goes to like order some coffee or something. I don't know. So Lynn and Theresa are left alone at the table, and Lynn asks her, "Why are you lying to Ethan? Why are you lying about being pregnant?" She says, "I didn't want to press you, but I didn't want to press you before in front of everybody, but I know you're pregnant and I know that Ethan's not the father. It's Julian Crane. You didn't want to press me. What do you mean you didn't want to press me? You were pressing hard, girl. That was a hard press. It was a iron press. Okay? You use starch. Did you ever use starch when you ironed your clothes? Am I the only person? I'm not. I know I'm not the only person. But we used to use starch on like our clothes to make them like really crisp.
I've used it before, yeah.
Yeah. So she was pressing Theresa like starch in an iron. Okay. But she's like, I didn't want to press you before. Yes, you pressed me hard, bitch. So anyway, um, she says, I know that you're pregnant. I just don't know why you're hiding it. But I didn't know why you're hiding it, but now I know it's probably because you're pregnant with Julian Crane's baby. And Lynn just keeps pressuring her until Theresa finally confides in her, yes, I am pregnant. I am pregnant with Julian Crane's baby. And then Lynn validates Theresa's like fears around losing Ethan, because Lynn is like, yeah, I wish I had gotten the abortion because then Gavin would still be with me. The minute that I told him I was pregnant, he left me. And that's what guys do, they just leave. So Theresa immediately is like, I got to go make this appointment to go get my abortion. Right. Meanwhile, Ethan and Chad have gone off to find Gavin, which I didn't even think Gavin would be in Harmony. I guess they're both from Harmony. Oh, it's the holidays, so it makes sense that they would all both be home for the holidays because they were at school in Boston. But they find him in a bar just like out of the blue. I don't. It's never explained how they find Gavin. It's never explained what the way they looked for him. Who did they talk to? They never even asked Lynn like, where does Gavin hang out? What is he like? They just walked into a bar and said, "Hey, are you Gavin?" And he was like, "Yeah, who's asking?" And they're like, "Well, we're friends of your girlfriend, Lynn." He's like, "My ex-girlfriend. I don't have anything to say about that." And so then they give him a real stern talking to. They're just like, "How could you leave Lynn high and dry like that? How could you just abandon your girlfriend and your own baby? You're really going to regret this one day, man. You're really going to regret it. You can't leave your baby." I mean, fine. Fine. So yeah, they tell him they're there to keep him from making the biggest mistake of his life. They say you have to take responsibility. You have a responsibility to Lynn and your baby. He says, "I'm sorry." This is what he says: "I'm sorry that Lynn's hurting, but I can't be saddled with a baby while I go to med school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry that Lynn's hurting, but I'm sorry, y'all. This guy does not do it for me at all. At all. I can't be saddled with a baby while I go to med school. What about Lynn? What does that mean for her? Do you care? You don't care about her. You don't like her. You certainly don't love her if you would do this to her. But let's move on because Gavin tells them, I can't be saddled with a baby right now. I'm going to med school. And then Chad says, how you won't be able to live with yourself knowing that you abandoned your own kid and the woman you love. He doesn't love her. He doesn't love her. That should be abundantly clear right now. He does not love her. He says, but Chad says, that's the woman you love, and you'll never be able to forgive yourself. Obviously, he will. He didn't have any qualms about walking away. He did it, and after telling her to get an abortion, and then when she wouldn't get an abortion, decided to walk away instead of dealing with the situation that he created.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I digress. Chad, they go back and forth for a while. Chad tells him he needs to take responsibility and that, why don't you come with us so you can make things right? Back at the book cafe, Whitney is continuing to talk to Theresa and trying to keep her from going through with getting the abortion. Whitney is really like the voice of Whitney and Chad, not Chad, Whitney and Ethan are really the voices of like anti-abortion in these episodes. So just imagine what people who are anti-abortion would say to a person who is considering aborting their rapist's baby. And that is what they are saying. And again, I said this last week. I understand, I know full well and understand that Passions has not created the narrative that Theresa is pregnant with her rapist's baby, but if you put it in those terms, which is what it absolutely would be if the circumstances are, in fact, that Julian refused to talk to her unless she would drink with him, got her drunk, took her up to his room, made her drink some more, married her, then had sex with her. I don't know what you call that other than an assault. He did it on purpose. He absolutely before they were drunk, when they were both sober, and that's where, because a lot of people try to like say, well, they were both drunk. They were not both drunk when it started, and the minute he saw Theresa in that hotel, he decided that he was going to try to fuck her. I just want to be clear. That was what was written. Okay, so and the show is telling us that he succeeded, and whether he was drunk when he did it or not, the intention was still the same when he was sober, right? So anyway, when you put it in those terms, Theresa is pregnant with her rapist baby, right?
Yes, her rapist and someone who she believed and Ethan believed for most of his life was his father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's very justified in wanting to get an abortion.
Extremely justified in wanting to get an abortion. But Whitney is just unrelenting in telling Theresa that she can't go through with this. And then she says, all you have to do is tell Ethan the truth. Oh, is that all? Oh, excuse me, Whitney. I didn't realize that was all I had to do. All you have to do is tell Ethan the truth. It's a big truth. It's a big truth to tell. And I said this last week. I understand that Theresa is that, yes, in long term, the best choice might be to just tell Ethan the truth and like get it out there and be honest with him. But the only reason I think that is because they have made such a big deal about the lying part of this, right? But that's the only, it's not, for me, it's not the abortion. It's the, Ethan has told you over and over again that if you lie to him, that it's over. You keep big secrets from him, that it's over. He has asked you multiple times at this point if you and Julian slept together. Now, again, I do not think that that's something she necessarily has to tell him. I don't. Again, there's a lot of shame surrounding this. She was assaulted. She doesn't actually owe him the truth around it. She doesn't. That's my opinion. Other people probably feel differently about it. But she gets to tell her story when she's ready to tell her story. That's how I feel. You know? So, like I said, I told you before we started, Karen, that I'm like, this gets me a little fired up. And I'm trying to be as sensitive about the issue as I possibly can. But I am very passionate about about victims and like them being able to tell their truth in their own time, and for people to believe them in the time that they decide that it's time for them to tell their truth, right? And so yeah, with Whitney, she tells her, all you have to do is tell Ethan the truth. That's easy for you to say, Whitney. You're not fucking pregnant with Julian Crane's baby. That's so easy for her to say. You don't have to bear the brunt of the ramifications. But she tells her, all you have to... What?
It's ironic considering some things that happened to Whitney later on, too.
You're absolutely right. Yes. She's going to get a little taste of her own medicine soon. Not soon, but later. After Whitney says, all you have to do is tell Ethan the truth, Theresa says, I can't. Ethan will never forgive me when he sees that I'm pregnant with Julian's baby and that I slept with Julian. And Whitney says he'll never forgive you if you have an abortion either. I mean, I just hate this language. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I'm having trouble. I was thinking earlier about this. I'm having trouble seeing how Ethan is suddenly so pro-choice. He doesn't, or
pro
I'm,
life.
excuse me, not pro-choice, anti-choice.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like the stereotypical person who would be that way. He was raised in a wealthy family by people who don't seem very religious. Ivy and Julian don't seem very religious. Ethan doesn't seem very religious. We've seen him in church when he was about to get married and when they went for Christmas mass and stuff like that, but there's nothing saying he's someone who attends church regularly. He had premarital sex with Gwen and Theresa.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not following the other teachings of the church. And I would expect him to see both sides of the issue. He's supposed to be a smart, Ivy League educated lawyer. So, you know, that's just my take on Ethan. I don't understand where all this is coming from with him.
I agree. I think and I think you make a great point. Like, up until this point, we've seen nothing to tell us that Ethan is particularly religious. And so, and that's the angle they are using a lot for this anti-abortion stance, is kind of like, it's wrong, it goes against your religion, Theresa, what Whitney is saying to Theresa.
Mhm.
And then when we get what Ethan has to say, which we're going to get to it, and it wasn't good. It was all things bad. What he says about abortion, yeah, it does. You're right. I agree. It absolutely doesn't track with the character that they had written for him up until this point. Now, sure, he's like this, like do-gooder about, we need to be honest and tell the truth and everything, but he's not religious, and like you say, he grew up with, like, basically the Antichrist is his grandfather.
Yeah.
So, I mean, shit. Alistair told, I think, was it did he tell Father Lonigan? I think he told Father Lonigan. He was like at the church to watch Sheridan die. Okay, he was at he and Julian were hiding in the church so that they could watch Sheridan die on the altar, um, and during the, like, rehearsal for the that dumbass double wedding. And he told Father Lonigan, is like, God may rule in heaven, but I rule here on earth. God ain't got shit on Julian Crane, or on Alistair Crane, basically. Like, he's not, it's definitely not religious. And so I know this one, Ethan, didn't grow up religious at all. I know he didn't. So you make a great point. So anyway, we digress. We're going back to Theresa says, he'll never forgive me if I have Julian Crane's baby. Whitney says he'll never forgive you if you have an abortion. And Theresa says, if I could have this baby and give it up for adoption, I would, but that's not an option for me. I have to have this abortion. It is the only way.
Mhm.
At this point, Chad and Ethan come back, and Lynn has such a nasty attitude with them. She's like, "Oh, look who's back. I guess you guys got tired of listening to me cry, so you took off just like Gavin did." And Ethan says, "Well, you're right about one thing. We were tired of listening to you cry." And she says, "See? I knew. Men are all the same. They just leave you." He said, "But we wanted to make things right and make things better for you. So we went and we found Gavin to talk some sense into him." So she was really excited. She's like, "You did?" She jumps up, "Where is he?" But he's not with them at that exact moment. And she says, "Oh, he didn't come with you, did he? See, I told you, Theresa, once you're pregnant, a guy and wait, once you tell a guy you're pregnant, he will leave you." And then Gavin comes in, walks into the book cafe. Oh my God, y'all. Gavin comes in. He apologizes and asks her if she'll take him back. And she's like, "Of course," which, ugh. She takes him back, and he says to her, "If we cut back on things like lattes, CDs, and eating out, I think we could make this work."
I am so glad you caught that too. I was dying. I wrote, this man really doesn't need to have a baby if he thinks that is going to pay for a baby.
Exactly. That's it. I was like, oh, lattes, CDs, and eating out equate how much it costs to raise a baby.
Right.
Listen, y'all, my nephew, when he was born, I don't have any kids, so I know that raising kids is expensive in theory, right? But I don't ever spend any of my money on like kids in general, typically, other than like buying birthday gifts and shit like that for my nieces and nephews. When my nephew was a baby, he was born prematurely. He was born 3.5 months early, so he was really little, and he had to take special formula. So one night they were like running low. I was home visiting, and so I was like, I'll go get the formula for you. I went to buy this fucking formula. One can. It was a tiny can. $50. $50 for like this tiny little can of formula. And like apparently that was only gonna last him a week. I was like, oh my God. I can't imagine. I can't imagine having a baby and how much it actually costs. And this moron thinks, oh, you know what? If we just stop buying CDs,
Hmm.
we stop buying CDs and lattes. That should make up the difference for the infant we're about to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should not have this baby. They absolutely. That's my stance here because honestly, I've already told you I think Gavin's a shithead. I think he's horrible. I don't think she should have taken him back. I think she should have gotten an abortion and left his ass. That's what I think. And moved on with her life, gotten her education, went back to school.
Yeah.
Um, but that's not what they wrote on the show. Apparently, it's better to have a man who does not love you and is willing to abandon you in your most dire time and need than to be a single mother. Somehow that's better. Not for me. I'd rather be a single mother, actually, than be with a man who would abandon me with a baby because I
Mhm.
wouldn't get an abortion. Because let's be clear, that's her choice. I'm not saying I'm not saying she necessarily should or should not. I'm That's her choice to make, right? Um, but I think I'd rather just be a single mother than be with that man. He seems fucking awful. But
Yeah.
maybe I'm just too rash because I will cut people off. I will cut people off very quickly for much smaller things than abandoning me as while I'm pregnant. Men especially. I don't give men much grace.
No, I don't like Gavin either. And it makes me mad because I guess Passions had him as kind of the pro-choice side of the argument, sort of, but he's not even a good representation of it because he's not taking a stand for that. He's just saying it's more convenient for Lynn to have an abortion because of the stage of their lives they're in.
Yeah. Yeah. They do not give the pro-choice argument enough of well because the show's not pro-choice.
Right.
That's abundantly clear. I think the main advocate for it right now is Theresa, and I think what they did well with Theresa is to show that she is struggling with the decision. I do like that because I do think that it is a struggle for a lot of women to make that choice, right? So it's good to show her really grappling with it, just choosing it, figuring out if this is what she really wants, and why, and giving her reasons. I appreciate her giving her reasons. Now, I again, they bring in a lot of like the religious element this week, a lot. I'm not crazy about it, but yeah, Gavin, he's no good. Bad news bears. But anyway, Lynn gets back together with him. She's pleased as punch to be back with this horrible man, because apparently having a man is better than having no man. I guess. Okay. Anyway, then Chad, this whole time, Chad has like been putting the little pieces together. Chad like leans over to Whitney and is like, I think I got everything figured out. But uh if I'm right, it's definitely going to be the end of Theresa and Ethan. So I do think that Chad has all the answers already. He's figured it out. It's not that hard to figure out if you're really watching, if you're paying attention, you know. But Ethan's in denial and he's delusional. So, and he's like just blinded by his like obsession with Theresa, I think. I'm not sure. But anyway, the next day, Theresa and Whitney go to the book cafe, and again, Whitney's just trying to keep Theresa from having an abortion. Beth brings the girls breakfast, and for like on the house, here's some breakfast for you two girls, and she gives Whitney a blueberry muffin and Theresa a bagel with cream cheese and lox. The sight of it makes Theresa sick, and that's when Ethan comes in and sees that Theresa's not feeling well. She runs to like the bathroom. Beth says, "It's the strangest thing. The last time I saw a woman get sick at the sight of her food, she was pregnant." Fine. Okay, whatever. So, just so much heavy-handed Theresa might be pregnant. Everybody's telling Ethan that it seems like Theresa might be pregnant, but Ethan's like, "There's no way she's pregnant. How could she possibly be pregnant? It's impossible." At one point he says, "It's impossible for Theresa to be pregnant. She was on the pill when we had sex."
And this dumbass says, he says, "What a coincidence. People think you're having morning sickness," after he sees her run to the bathroom when she sees her breakfast.
Yeah. "Everybody seems to think you're having morning sickness. What a coincidence. Just like Lynn. Beth thinks you're pregnant too." It's like, well, maybe 2 plus 2 might equal 4, Ethan. I don't know for sure, but I think 2 plus 2 might equal 4. Maybe try putting some things together. He tells Theresa comes back from the bathroom. He tells her that he's excited. It's going to be a good day because he's got a meeting with a potential client who's looking for an attorney. And then he invites her to come with him. But again, she's not feeling so good. So they don't go. She then decides, I've got an appointment. Ethan leaves. She tells Whitney, "I've got an appointment at the women's clinic." And so she heads over there. Um also there is conversation around Ethan before Ethan leaves. There is conversation around Ethan talking about Theresa possibly being pregnant, but saying that it's impossible because you would never have slept with Julie. Like, it's impossible for you to be pregnant with my baby because you were on the pill when we had sex, and you never would have slept with Julian. And if you had slept with Julian and you told me about it, I would have killed him. So there's no way. So they just double down on that ridiculous notion that if Ethan is told the truth, he will murder Julian and then he will spend the rest of his life in jail, which to me, only drives home the point that Theresa is right in her choice. For me. Like if I was the Passions writers and I was trying to give Theresa an out, I would not have written that, validating her idea that Ethan will kill Julian if he found out that she slept with him, right? But that only spurs Theresa on to like, yeah, no, I definitely have to go and have my pregnancy terminated. So he says, "But there's no reason for us to talk about this because it never happened and there's no secrets between us, right, Theresa?" Theresa's like, "Right." "Sure." Um, so once Ethan leaves, Theresa she has renewed resolve. Like, I have to do this. I have to. There's no other choice. There's no other way. And then her and Whitney have the same old conversation. And Whitney's just continuing to just guilt Theresa, saying, you're already thinking about the well-being of your baby. This is what she says. She's like, "You're already thinking about the well-being of your baby. That's why you ordered juice instead of coffee, because you were worried about the caffeine in the coffee." And Ethan also made that, like, notice that at one point too, and was like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you ordered juice today because you were worried about the baby, the caffeine in the coffee for the baby. But that's impossible. Like, okay.
This man is such a goober. I can't stand it.
No, me either. So yeah, she's guilting her. She says, "This will destroy you. It'll destroy you the same way it would destroy you if you lost Ethan." And Theresa's like, "I can't listen to this right now. I have an appointment. I have to go. I'm going to have an abortion." That's what she says. Then we see Theresa outside the abortion clinic. Or no, they call it's the Harmony Women's Clinic. I don't want to call it the abortion clinic. Because that's another thing. It's the Harmony Women's Clinic. They also call it like a family planning clinic. And there's a lot of things that happen in women's clinics outside of abortions.
Right.
So I also don't love that framing that this is like it's a women's clinic, but everybody in town knows that this is just an abortion clinic basically. I listen, Mouse is into the passions. You gotta let her. Gotta let her vibe with us because she's just like, yes, I agree. Pro choice, pro choice.
This is actually around the time she starts wanting dinner. Her dinner time is at 5 and it's 4 now, and she is very annoying for the last hour. She's always like,
And you always wait till 5 o'clock.
I sometimes I cave, but I try to keep it near 5.
Okay. All right. Well, if you are like, I need to feed her, just let me know. We'll stop and you can go feed her. I don't want Mouse going hungry.
Okay.
Okay. So Whitney continues to guilt her. This is gonna destroy you. And then Teresa's like, I gotta go. This is the only way. I have an appointment. So she goes to the women's clinic. Outside the women's clinic, Ethan catches her going in and he says, why are you here, Theresa? And he's like, flies off the handle. You're getting an abortion. Da da da. It was pretty obvious that it was a delusion, one of Theresa's many delusions. And so when she comes to, it's Whitney in front of her who has been calling her name constantly. And Whitney says that she came to what did she say? Whitney comes and says, I think you should let your conscience be your guide. That's what she says. She says, I've already said everything I can say. Now it's just time for you to use your conscience. And I think in a way, it's nice that Whitney showed up and came with her. Like Theresa's gonna need somebody there regardless, whether she chooses to go through with it or not, right? And so I am glad that Whitney came with her. Theresa goes inside, says that, I'm here for an appointment. I just gave you my first name. It's Theresa. She's like, no last names, just it's Theresa. They say, okay, the counselor will see you. And she's like, what? I thought I was going to get an abortion today. And she's like, everybody has to see the counselor before they can get an abortion. Fine. At first, I thought this was one of those bait and switch clinics. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the crisis.
Yeah, like crisis centers. It's like women's crisis centers or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, oh my Lord, don't tell me they're about to like do this whole thing where Theresa simply can't get an abortion. But that's not what it seems to be. They tell her she has to talk to a counselor before she goes through with the abortion. So she goes to talk to the counselor. And I think I already said this. Y'all, I was so sure. I was like, what if Eve is the like counselor? But it wasn't. It was not Eve. It was another black woman. And so Theresa tells this counselor about her whole horrible situation. And the counselor says, well, have you considered adoption or letting the biological father raise the child? Theresa says, those are options for me. And so the counselor tells her, well, I have to get you some forms. You have to read this literature. And it's like some pamphlets. And she says, if you have any doubts at all, I strongly advise you not to go through with this. Now, I've never been through this process. I feel like oftentimes when we're watching Passions, I can look at things and be like, there's no way this is how this works. But this is one time where I have no clue how this actually works. You know what I mean? And so, maybe this is how it works. I would think, I guess I do know that there are laws in some places. And I think that's what the receptionist said, that by law, she has to go through counseling before she can. I might have made that up in my mind. Did she say that or not?
I don't remember, but I think that is, like you said, a law in some states, and I've never been in this situation either, but it does track to me, maybe from what I've seen on other TV shows, that they need to give her literature on everything, and they need to discuss her options with her, so adoption or
Yeah.
letting the woman says maybe adoption or letting the biological father raise the child. And then Teresa's like, oh, that definitely won't work. You don't know this biological father of my child.
Exactly. She's like, these options don't work for me. I'm sure that this is what I want, basically. And so while all of this is going on, Chad and Ethan are at a toy store shopping for toys for orphans. Lovely, lovely. So then they see a random couple who Ethan knows, and they tell him, "Oh, it's what a coincidence. We just saw Theresa over on 4th Street." And Ethan says, "Huh, I wonder what she's doing on 4th Street." So then Ethan and Chad like buy all their toys. Ethan specifically buys a teddy bear that go like when you squeeze it, it goes, "Mama, Mama." Oh my god. Ethan specifically buys this teddy bear for his and Teresa's first baby.
Mhm.
Oh, this show is so heavy-handed. So then they go off looking for Theresa. He's like, well, if Teresa's over on 4th Street, maybe we should go find her. So then they walk up and down 4th Street looking through all of the businesses to see if they can find her. So that's going on. Theresa like signs the paperwork. But now she has to make an appointment for the actual abortion. So she couldn't get it today, but she has like her paperwork basically in order. And so then she's ready to leave. Chad and Ethan are standing right outside the women's clinic. They're about to go out the front door, and Theresa says to the counselor, she's like, actually, is there another way out? Like, there's so many people in town. I don't want to be seen. And the lady's like, oh, sure, of course. Take the back way. So as they're going out the back way, Ethan and Chad decide to go into the women's clinic because they don't know what the building is, because for some reason, some guy has covered the sign with a tarp. Why
Yeah,
would
I didn't get that either. I said, why are they covering the sign? It doesn't make sense and they don't explain it.
They did it for the plot, basically, so that Ethan and Chad would go into the clinic. Because if they had seen the sign, they never would have gone in. So as they're going in, Theresa and Whitney are headed out the back. It was unclear to me if Chad saw them. I thought maybe he did. Did you see
I
that?
think he did. The
Okay.
look on his face made it seem like he did.
Yeah. It seemed like maybe he did, and so I'm gonna go with he saw them going out the back, but didn't say anything to Ethan about it. Uh, then they kind of all meet up on the street again, and Ethan shows Theresa that teddy bear that he bought for their firstborn. And he says, you know, Theresa, I know it's early, but I bought this for our baby, and I can't wait to see the look in your eyes the first time you find out that you're pregnant and all of this stuff. And he's holding it up to her, and she just descends, just starts to sob. This girl becomes distraught. She's sobbing. She's overwhelmed. And I want to reiterate, at this point now, Theresa found out she was pregnant yesterday. Like, it hasn't been a long time. She found out she was pregnant yesterday. She tried to get an abortion today. She's going through it. She's having a real hell of a time. So when she started crying, because I know we laugh at Theresa a lot about the tears, but this time I felt like it was very warranted. This girl's overwhelmed, and she's practically a child, and she's dealing with like these incredibly huge choices that she has to make, and all of these decisions that she has already made that have led her to this point. And so yeah, she just starts sobbing.
Mhm.
And then Whitney pulls Theresa to the side and tells her to pull herself together. She's like, you got to pull it together, girl. Like,
Yeah.
Ethan's going to be, I know Ethan's dumb, but eventually he will catch on. So Theresa tells Whitney that she's just so overwhelmed. And then, uh, yeah, then Ethan is so dumb that he thinks that Theresa is crying about her friend Lynn's situation. He's like, yeah, I already know why you're upset, Theresa. You were just thinking about what Lynn was about to do. Just thinking about it made you sick. Just thinking what Lynn was going to do was enough to make you sick, because I know that you think the same way that I do, and that you think that a fetus is a baby, not just a bunch of cells. And then he says, it must have torn you up to think what Lynn almost did to her unborn child.
Yeah.
He
I
says,
hate that.
I hated it. He says, I know when you get pregnant, you will put the baby first. You'll never do anything to harm it.
Hmm. I hate how it's always Ethan speaking for her and what she wants and how she feels. He
Mm-hmm.
never gives her a chance to say, Ethan, this is what's going on. These are my needs and feelings.
Mm-hmm. And what a dumb thing to think she's crying about. You
Mhm.
think you showed her a teddy bear and now all of a sudden she's like sobbing about this girl she hasn't even seen in a year. She hasn't seen Lynn since they graduated high school. And
Yeah.
sure, Lynn's pregnant and maybe she thought about getting an abortion, but the last time we saw her, she absolutely was not going to get an abortion and she was back together with her boyfriend. All things worked out for her. For as far as Theresa knows, Lynn's getting her happy ending. So why would she be sobbing on the street because you showed her a teddy bear?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Ethan's such an idiot. He's so dumb. He's
I
so
also
dumb.
I also don't like it when Ethan and Chad are talking and Ethan's talking about how much Theresa wants kids. He says she wants kids more than me. And women complain about how they look and feel when they get pregnant, but Theresa can't wait. How how can she know if she'll like it or not when she's never experienced it before?
Yeah. No.
Why is he saying this crap?
He's because he's a moron.
Yeah.
He's so dumb. He's so one dimensional. He's so just like single thought minded. Like at any time they give Ethan one thing to think about, they basically on the show they give Ethan one thing to think about at a time. and and he just like harps on that one thing constantly. It was Theresa has there's no secrets between us. I hate liars. That's what it was for a while. I hate liars. You know how much I hate lies and liars and I hate lies and liars. Now we don't believe in abortion. Of course, a fetus is an unborn child. It is a baby. It's not just a collection of cells. And so now that's what he's gonna do for the next couple of weeks until we get past this. And I cannot wait for us to get past this shit.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, now some shit is stirring up, y'all, because Ivy has decided, you know what? I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Things have moved so quickly, so incredibly fast. From the time when Ivy was on the wharf with David and he just told her about Charity's random baby premonition to where now she has flown out the maid from Bermuda who had walked in on Julian and Theresa in bed together. And so she's flown her out and has this maid, Sheila, identify both Julian and Theresa through pictures. And her plan is to have Sheila, basically out the whole thing. That way, Ivy's not the bad guy. Sheila's the messenger, not Ivy, right? So she calls uh, Ethan and says, you know, I'm in a great mood. Why don't you and Theresa come over to the house? I have something to give you. It's an early Christmas present. Ivy. And so she has hired Sheila to work at the mansion at triple what she made on the island in Bermuda. And now Sheila's walking around doing her maid thing, right? Pilar comes over because I think did Ivy call Pilar or did Pilar just show up?
I think Pilar just showed up because she was supposed to be checking on the Christmas decorations.
Yeah. Oh, but you know what I want to say before we get to Pilar? Ivy's so excited that she thinks that she's gonna finally catch Theresa that she starts talking like Rebecca. And I did not love it. I'm sorry,
I
y'all, because I
didn't.
love Ivy. But I've been saying, y'all, she a little bigoted. I've been saying that. She says, now I've got you, you little cucaracha. The cucaracha is that cucaracha is toast. Adios, Teresita.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I love Ivy, but I don't condone all the things she does and says.
No.
And this was one thing that I didn't like. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because I wrote down, it sounds like they were giving her Rebecca's lines. I
Yeah.
don't remember her ever saying stuff like this before. She's called Theresa a tramp and a slut and that sort of thing, but she's never called her racist names.
Yeah, and the reason for that is before I think this was a very deliberate thing. It seemed like to me. I think they're showing us that Ivy is turning into like the thing she hates most, right? Like Rebecca, but
Yeah.
also Ivy has always been classist. right? We've always seen that from her. We don't get the racist language, but we definitely get the classist language. The she's a housekeeper's daughter. Do you really think that that girl would be able to be on your arm if you got to become the president? Would she make a good first lady? She's not one of us, right? I don't think it's that big of a leap from classism to racism. You know what I mean? The same people who talk like that run in circles, as we see, with people who very freely use that racist language. And I think it's easy to slip into that. You know, it was disappointing to hear from Ivy. I'm not gonna lie, it was disappointing, but it wasn't particularly surprising. It was just disappointing. Cause yeah, she sounded like Rebecca. She sounded just like Rebecca. Little cucaracha. Come
Mhm.
on. Okay, so anyway, at the mansion, Pilar finally shows up. And Pilar's in such a good mood. And we haven't talked about why Pilar's in a good mood. This is going to be a long episode, y'all. We still have to talk about Sheridan and Louise. So Pilar comes to the mansion. Ivy notices that Pilar's in a really good mood. And Pilar tells her she has reason to believe that her son Antonio is going to be coming home for the holidays. And Ivy says, "Oh, that's interesting. I thought maybe you were so happy because you're going to be a grandmother." Now, this was so fucked up. Again, with Ivy saying that she and Pilar are best friends, and then for Pilar to tell you, I think I heard from my son Antonio, whom I haven't heard from in years. You know how much I've missed him, how much I've longed for him to come home. Then you drop this bombshell on me instead of at least give me a moment, Ivy. Come on. She didn't though. She was like, "Oh, I thought maybe you were so happy because you're gonna be a grandmother."
Yeah, that's true. Ivy forgot about that friendship and just went straight on to what she's trying to get accomplished. And she said something like Pilar, because Pilar was denying that Theresa was pregnant, and she says, "Oh, Pilar, you're as transparent as glass."
Yep. She's like, "I can see right through you, lady."
Mhm.
And then Pilar questions her about the new maid, and that's when Ivy tells her everything. She's like, "Yeah, I did. I just hired her, and it turns out she came from the Crane Resort in Bermuda, where she caught Theresa and Julian in a compromising position."
Mhm.
And so Pilar does beg Ivy very quickly. Like, I mean, she knew. I don't think she felt like that was gonna really do anything, but she does beg her, like, "Please don't do this." Ivy says, "Nah, I'm gonna do it, bitch. I'm gonna save my son, and your daughter be damned." Uh, it's at this point that everybody, Chad, Ethan, Theresa, and Whitney, all show up to the mansion, and Pilar answers the door, and she pulls Theresa outside while everybody else goes in, and she tells Theresa, "Ivy knows. Ivy knows you're pregnant with Julian's baby." Dun dun dun. And that's it. You have anything to add to them?
Just that I wrote down Ivy's the cat that caught the canary and all this. Like she is just smiling. She's zooming around in her wheelchair to the front door, um, giving Ethan a kiss on the cheek, or he
Mm-hmm.
kisses her on the cheek, and she's just so excited about all of this. It's bad for everyone, but it's amusing to me because I like Ivy.
Yeah. Well, it's still
And
amusing,
then
because like I said, she sparkles.
yeah.
She sparkles, and it's so fun to watch her do all of this stuff.
Mhm.
And she's not wrong. The thing is, she's not wrong. She's actually telling the truth. Teresa's the one that's lying. You
Yeah.
just hate to see it come out like this, but yeah.
And Chad is very, I think he's going to be very quick to figure out what's going on because I think when Sheila comes out and Ivy's introducing Sheila, Chad sort of points at her or looks at her like, "Oh my God, I know you. I recognize you from Bermuda."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Chad's definitely gonna catch on, and so I don't know how we get around this time. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm very interested to see what comes up next.
Mhm.
All right, so we're gonna finish out with Sheridan and Louise. There's not a whole lot to talk about here. I think we can blast through this pretty quickly. That's why I left it for last. That's why I left it for last. Save the worst for last. I'm sorry, y'all. This storyline sucks. Okay, so Pilar is very excited about Christmas. She comes in, she's bought all of these groceries. She's like, we're going to have the biggest celebration we've ever had. You know, the whole family, everybody's there except for Theresa, I think. But like Luis, Miguel, all of Miguel's friends are there. And Pilar explains to Miguel, this is just recap. She explains to Miguel why she thinks that Antonio is going to be coming for Christmas this year. And then she then goes to the kitchen where Louise has just had another vision of Sheridan that's not real. I'm tired of it. Stop doing this. Stop doing it. I'm sick of it. We all know it's not real. We all know it's not happening. I get that we're trying to keep hope alive for Louise, but just let him keep the hope alive. Just let him keep the hope alive. These whole like Sheridan visions, apparitions irritate me to no end. So then Pilar comes into the kitchen. She has all these groceries, and he notices that she has all of the ingredients to make tamales or tamales. I don't, you know what? I'm going to cut that out. I don't want tamales. I can't. Tamales. Okay. She has all the ingredients to make tamales, which were Antonio's favorites, and she has all the ingredients to make creme brulee, which was Sheridan's favorite dessert. And she says, I'm praying for a miracle, and that she thinks that maybe they'll come for Christmas. These two people, Pilar and Luis, argue the entire week. That's what they do. They argue back and forth. Pilar says, maybe a miracle can happen. I have faith. I have reason to believe that they're gonna be here. Luis says it's impossible. Even though last week he made the point that, you know what? I saw the depths of hell. I saw a real life demon attack my brother. You know, maybe anything is possible, right? But now he's back to like, it's impossible. And so they just argue about whether a miracle could happen, whether Antonio's coming, whether Sheridan's alive, whatever. Hank comes in, they bring him up to speed. Beth comes over. Beth comes over and she tells Louise that the people who are sailing her boat back to Harmony should be there by Christmas. And then they talk about how when Luis was on St. Lisa's Island, he felt this closeness to Sheridan. He felt like Sheridan was really nearby. And Beth's like, well, maybe when we go to dinner with them, they can give you some answers. What would make you think they could give you answers about Sheridan? I mean, they can. but I don't know what made her think that these two presumably strangers what answers they would have about why Sheridan felt so close to Luis when he was on the island. But anyway, so there's a lot of conversation in the kitchen around Sheridan, about miracles, about how if I think it's Hank that says to Luis at this point, because Pilar has like gone away. There's a lot of in and out of the kitchen here, and who's talking to who when and who can hear what. But Hank basically says to Luis, you know, if miracles happen, I think that Sheridan and your mother Pilar are exactly the kind of people that miracles would happen to, because they deserve it. Sheridan was so loving and kind, and your mother is so selfless. If miracles can happen, they're the people that they happen to. I actually really liked that from Hank.
I liked it too. It was cool. And at some point, maybe we haven't gotten there yet, but Pilar convinces Luis to light the Sheridan candle again.
Because when we open up, Luis is like looking at the Sheridan candle, which he did light last week. He got down on his knees, prayed for a miracle, right? But now this week, he's like, no, there's no point in lighting the candle when we start the week. He's like, there's no point in lighting this candle. There's no miracles are going to happen for me, whatever. And yes, he does eventually go back over to maybe a miracle can happen, and he does light the candle for Sheridan. And at that moment, Sheridan like gets this really warm feeling that somebody is out there with her. He lights the candle. He prays on the star. There's a lot of conversation around this Christmas star. A lot. I've already cut some out. There was like a ton between Tabitha and Timmy, and I like cut some of that out. But there's so much conversation about this Christmas star, and if nothing comes of this shit, I'm gonna be so annoyed because they have put a lot of stock into, yeah, this Christmas star, it grants wishes, you know, if you believe hard enough and if you have enough faith, God will grant you a wish, basically. So that's what's going on in Harmony. Meanwhile, in Bermuda, or not in Bermuda, on the have they left yet? No, in Bermuda on the island before they leave. Antonio's like dreaming about going home for Christmas. Hey, Mouse, the cat's back. The cat came back the very next day. Karen's cat, Mouse. I just love that your cat's name is Mouse.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so Antonio dreams about going home for Christmas and how everybody will react to him, specifically Luis. So he imagines that Luis will be very angry with him and tell him to leave. Then Sheridan tells Liz that she also had a dream about talking to the man that she loved on the phone. Because remember last week, Sheridan did sort of kind of talk to Luis on the phone.
Mhm.
But then she's like, it's impossible. The man I love is dead. And then Liz says, well, maybe the dream is trying to tell you something. Maybe it's not impossible. Listen, maybe your memories are all mixed up. How could you know if they're mixed up or not? You know, thank you, Liz, for finally somebody's had to say it. Shit. Maybe you don't, maybe your memories are all mixed up and that guy is actually out there somewhere waiting for you, looking for you, thinking about you and wondering where you are. Then Brian comes in and Sheridan tells him she's ready to leave, wants to leave for Harmony right away, and she says maybe this trip is really exactly what I need and what you need as well. It's Christmas. Your family will be thrilled to see you. And then Brian insists that he will not be going home. But Sheridan hopes that he'll change his mind. Liz then deduces that Brian's family is actually in Harmony because when Sheridan says something about going to Harmony, she also says, well, yeah, I hope Brian will be able to see his family because we're going to Harmony and I know his family is in the US somewhere. The US is massive, okay? Just because y'all are going to a coastal town in Massachusetts does not mean he's going to be able to make his way to Texas. You see what I mean? You know, like in this by Christmas. But Liz deduces that Brian's family is actually in Harmony just based on the context clues that we're all getting from Brian's face. Um, and then Diana brings Liz up to speed about what happened last night on the boat about like the phone call to Harmony. And then Brian storms off saying it's best for everyone if I never see my family again. I don't like him. This isn't even the worst of him, but I don't. It just rubs me the wrong way. He's such a brat. He storms off. It's best for everyone if I never see my family again. Sheridan then goes to her room, packs a suitcase. She says, you know, I have to put everything. I think I should pack everything because if things go the way I hope, I won't be coming back to the island. I'm going to spend the rest of, you know, go back to my family in Harmony. But baby, you don't have anything to pack. Those are not your things. She doesn't have anything. You don't have anything. So she's just stealing Liz's stolen stuff, basically. Yeah. But she packs all her stuff. Then Brian like hems and haws about seeing his family. He's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. And then Sheridan gives him a gift that's actually for his mother, for Pilar. And he says, well, I don't know if I'll be seeing them when we go because my brother, he wouldn't like it. And then Sheridan says, you shouldn't listen to your brother, not even in your dreams. He's a judgmental jerk. And if I ever meet him, I'm going to tell him exactly what I think about him. I get when you have a friend and they don't like somebody or like they're having issues with somebody, but you don't know the person that they're having issues with. To be like, yeah, I'm on your side all the way, 100%. But in this instance, if I met a man who was estranged from his family and he made it clear that the reason he was estranged from his family was because of something he himself had done, I don't think I would be so hard on the brother that's like angry at him. Mm-hmm. You know, because clearly you did something you must have done something really bad for you to end up on this island, not wanting to tell anybody what you did or why you did it or how you got here. I don't think I would be as quick as Sheridan is to be like, he's a jerk, and if I ever meet him, I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind. Like,
Yeah.
you're probably on the side of wrong, right? Like, you're probably on the wrong side of whatever this argument is in this family.
Hmm.
But Sheridan is a ride or die. She's decided she's gonna be with Brian, and she's gonna hold him down. So then Liz gives Brian the contact information for the person that he needs to contact when he gets back to Harmony. And the contact information is not Beth, because something about her not being there for Christmas or something. But Beth had just talked to Luis and said that she would be there, and they were like, they had, all four of them are supposed to be getting dinner at the Christmas shack. Not the Christmas shack, the lobster shack. So, whatever. She gives him a piece of paper that has his brother's name on it, Luis Lopez Fitzgerald. So now our gruesome twosome has set sail. They are off sailing the seven seas. And they have the exact same conversation they've been having over and over again. Your family probably misses you, Brian. No, they don't. They're better off without me. Yada, yada, yada. On and on and on. Until finally, Diana says something about thinking maybe she has her memories mixed up, and that due to her amnesia, the man she loves actually really is still alive, and the memories she's having are like topsy turvy. Yes, I love that. I wanted her to keep that. But then she immediately second guesses that and says, you know what, Brian, you're probably right. There's probably nothing to this. Like, I don't even know why I'm going to Harmony with you. Maybe there's nothing there for me. And she says, my family, I don't know who my family is, but Brian, you're lucky because you remember your family. You're lucky because you don't have amnesia like me, and you remember your family, and you know that the people you love are still living. And Brian says, you know, Diana, now that she's feeling really like insecure about it, he tells her, you know, I actually do hope you find your family and friends and piece together your past. I know you don't believe me, but I do hope that happens for you. Yeah, now that she's feeling a little insecure about it, he's like, oh, let me tell you this thing that I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. I guess he probably is. I just hate him, so I want to believe the worst in him. I do. I want to believe the worst about him, but he's trying, I guess, here. Whatever. Uh then Sheridan says, oh, he says, even if, he says, I hope you piece together your past, even if it means that you stay in Harmony and I have to go back to the island, even if it means basically we have to be separated. And she says, don't say that. I don't know what I would do if I lost you. So now we're seeing that these two people are forming mutual feelings for each other. Because before, I think it was very one-sided on Brian's side, but now Diana is saying, like, I don't know what I would do if I lost you. I mean, you saved me 2 times. You saved my life, and you know, I don't want to live my life without you, basically. Ugh.
Hmm.
Then they see the Christmas star and they make wishes. Ah,
I love
ah.
this Christmas star.
What?
This Christmas star, it's all over the place.
Yeah, they see the Christmas star. Brian explains that, you know, if you make a wish, they say it'll come true. Blah blah blah. They make their wishes. I can't remember what Sheridan wished for. I think it was like to help her find her. I imagine it was to find out my past and find people in Harmony and let Harmony be the connection that I think it is. And Brian's was that he wanted to be with Diana forever, basically.
Hmm.
Um, then he goes and make I wrote hot chocolate nonsense because
I loved it. I loved it.
because Pilar is in Harmony making hot chocolate for Luis and Beth, and they talk about how delicious the hot chocolate is, and it's a family recipe, a secret family recipe. And Beth is talking about like buying it from her. It's so good. I would buy this from you, Pilar. Da da da. On the boat, Brian also makes hot chocolate for him and Sheridan. She drinks it and he's like, oh, she's like, it's so good. And he's like, yeah, it's my mother's secret family recipe. And she's with a secret ingredient. She tastes it. She's like, cinnamon. He's like, how do you know that? Baby, if I taste a hot chocolate with cinnamon in it, I would absolutely know that it has cinnamon in it.
But I'm glad she said that because right before she was like cinnamon, I thought, wait, if she was pretty much raised by Pilar, wouldn't she have also had this hot chocolate?
Mm-hmm.
To recognize the hot chocolate if Antonio's or excuse me,
You can
Brian.
say Antonio. No, we've already made the reveal. We made it last week that he's
Okay,
Antonio. So you can say Antonio, you can say Brian. I've been like interchanging them a little bit. So like I've been interchanging them. So we've made the reveal. You're not spoiling anything.
okay.
But yeah, I was glad that she recognized it too. That yeah, this tastes familiar to me, and she knew it was cinnamon. He's like, how did you know that? And she's like, I don't know, I just do.
She
Like,
says, "Oh my God, this was my favorite line, and maybe you can consider it as an episode title." She says, "I don't know how I know anything. I have amnesia."
that is a great line. That was a great line. I don't know how I know anything. I have amnesia.
I laughed. I laughed so hard.
Yeah, that was great.
And this is one of the times I see there's this point way down the road where Kim and James, the people who play Ivy and Sam, do this too, where I swear it's the characters are supposed to be laughing, but I swear the actors are laughing too at how
Oh,
ridiculous it is. I think Mackenzie here was laughing at this line.
no, I imagine that happened a lot.
Mhm.
I imagine that happened a lot. I myself, I don't know that I would have been able to keep it together during some of these lines. I bet that happens so often that they're saying the lines, but they're also actually laughing at just how absurd what they just had to say was. So yeah. So yeah, hot chocolate nonsense. And I want to be clear, there was like so much hot chocolate nonsense through all of these episodes. Like the kids had hot chocolate. Everybody's having hot chocolate and sandwiches. Like that's what we do in Passions. You're either having hot chocolate or you're making sandwiches. So anyway, meanwhile, back in Harmony, Beth finds Sheridan's letter to Luis where she told him to move on with his life if she ever passed away. She finds the letter on the counter, reads it, and then turns to Luis and says, I read Sheridan's letter and I was wondering, are you ready to move on? And if so, am I going to be a part of you moving on? Beth, go take your desperate ass back to the book cafe. What was that? Why are you reading his private letter from Sheridan? First
Yeah.
of all, like the minute you see it from Sheridan, you should probably put it down, right? Like it's not for you. It's not yours. You don't walk into somebody's house and start reading their letters.
Mhm.
It's so rude. So, what?
Is he ready for her to be a part of his life? Clearly, he's not. Clearly.
That's
He's
exactly what he
still
said.
thinking about Sheridan. He thought he heard her voice on the phone. He's lighting a candle for her. He's fantasizing she's walking into the room and saying, I'm still here. No, he is not ready to move on.
At all. And he does say that to her. He says,
Mhm.
no, I'm not ready to move on and I don't know if I ever will be, but if um if I ever am, you'll be the first to know, basically. And
Mhm.
then Beth's like, okay, and she starts to head out. But then she turns around and says, actually, there's one other thing that I need to do. And she walks back and she points up, and there's mistletoe hanging above their head. And so then she kisses Luis and says, and gives him like a passionate kiss, not like a friendly peck, right? She kisses him, and then she says that I'll always be here for you if you need me. That was so inappropriate. This man just told you, basically, no, Beth, I'm not interested in like being with anybody else. And then you come back and kiss him. I don't know. I don't like Beth. I know y'all. I know there's people who do. Fantasia and Uche. I know there's people who like her, but she's just not it for me. I'm sorry. Like, cause I already don't like her, and she's being nice. I already know when she goes off the deep end, I'm gonna be like, yeah, fuck this bitch. I already know. So that's it. Do you have anything else to add? We finished it. We did it.
No, I think that's it.
We did it. You did it. We did it. We're done. Before we go, do you want to share your social media with anybody or no?
Sure. My Instagram is Karen, Karen, the number 4 and America. That's my handle. And I haven't posted anything on TikTok, but I lurk on TikTok. If you want to follow me there, I'm Jersey underscore girl 1986.
All right, and I will link that in the description, and also you can find my social media stuff in the description as well. And that's all, folks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Karen, for being here. It was a pleasure. I hope you had a good time.
Have a blast. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And with that, you are my passion for life.